Okay, let's get started, all you energetic adults out there. Yeah, Monday through Friday is for me 8 hours of working on cars, mechanics, and they call us techs nowadays. So I don't know where that word came from, but that sounds a whole lot more smarter than mechanic, doesn't it? I'm a automobile tech. So, and that's what we're going to be teaching about tonight. So I was hoping that we'd have a good crowd. Looks like a great crowd. Y'all look very intelligent. How did that happen? I watch Jeopardy on a regular basis. Any Jeopardy watchers out there? Okay, yeah, a few of us. And who's the reigning champ right now? Do you know her name? Matea. I think she's going for her 21st win tonight, and 21 days of winning Jeopardy. And very, very smart people on there. And you watch it, and sometimes you're just amazed of how intelligent they are, how smart they are. But this week, there was an automobile category. And as smart as they were, let's see how you do. The clue was 2D words that describe brakes on a car. 2D words that describe brakes on a car. Who said that? Brother, all right, brother. Good job. All right, disc and drum. Of course, that came to me really quick. Like I was feeling smart that night. But 3 of those contestants just stared. No buzzer and had no clue. And I'm like, must be a subject that we could teach on nowadays, even the smartest people. How many of you already knew that? You already knew that? Disc and drum, yeah. And they didn't come up with that. So we're going to teach on the automobile and the Christian life. A better title would be How to Drive Like a Rolls Royce When You Feel Like a Chevy Vega. For those of you who are old enough to know, the Chevy Vega was one of Chevy's lemons, as far as their make are concerned. And I happened to own one when I was in college. So I tasted of the lemon, and it was bitter and sour and not good. So, and there is another message I'm working on too out of Isaiah. It's how to fly like an eagle when you feel like a chicken McNugget. So we'll have to share that with you one of these days. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall what? Mount up with wings as eagles. But sometimes we just don't feel like eagles. Well, so if you think about your car, many of us have driver's license, and this message, this has already been taught on a Thursday night here before. And where's Ryan at? Ryan, what's he doing? He helps with the teenagers, okay? And I don't know how many years ago, it was a lot of years ago, but months and months afterwards, Ryan came to me and said, I still remember that lesson on cars. So it meant a lot to him. So you'll have to share that with him that he missed out on the lesson on automobiles. But your automobile has different parts on it, different pieces on it. And we're going to liken your automobile to the Christian life. And you're saying, how are you going to do this spiritually, Brother Jones? I don't see how automobiles and Christianity can go together. Well, maybe by the end of the night you can say, yeah, I see it. Parts of your car should remind you of the Christian life. And I do have verses for every point. For those of you who are wondering, how Brother Jones like gone off on a tangent. He's going to be talking about cars tonight. And cars do interest many people. Me being one of them. Now, I can't just look at a car and name what model that is like Bruce Lehman can, or many of you. But I know about the parts of a car. And even when I was a teenager, even in grade school, I put together a model engine, V8, with a clear plastic where you could see through it and see the pistons and the crankshaft. And it had little LEDs that lit up for the spark plug, and it ran on a battery, and you could see how everything moved and things like that. And the distributor went around back when the cars had distributors. And I put that together. So I knew my engines. And then driver's ed. Many of you remember driver's ed. We went out as a class, and the teacher gathered us around the automobile engine and lifted up the hood. And everybody's staring, and he says, how many of you could point out where the distributor is? And, I'm in the back row, and I'm thinking, well, duh, the distributor. And I looked this way, and everybody just had that blank Jeopardy stare, with two D words. That just, over here, nobody. So I just raised my hand. He said, "What is it?" And I said, "Right there." And he was just floored that somebody knew what a distributor was in high school. And so I do know my car parts, And so let's talk a little bit about the car. Well, you got tires on your car. So let's talk about the tires first. The tires on your car help you, and the word is go. So what verse can we use for go in the Christian life? Mark 16:15, and he said unto them, "Go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature." We ought as Christians be on the go for the gospel. That doesn't mean that you have to physically get up and move, but you need to move the gospel from where you're at to where somebody else is at. Make it move. Now, you got different avenues for this. You can put it together in a track and make it move. You can get on the radio and make the gospel do what? Go. And I've heard many people, even athletes, being interviewed for a game that was spectacularly played, and they would give God the glory, and then they fit the Lord Jesus Christ and His shed blood in there. I'm like, whoa, the gospel is going forth right there in an interview. And so you could use radio. You can use the media to make it go. I've seen people on Facebook spread the message with the gospel on their Facebook. I've seen people use it in television, where the gospel is preached on a regular basis. And so the tires on your car ought to help you, remind you that, by the way, the tires do help you go on your car. How many of you passed somebody up on the road that wasn't going because they had a flat or more, one or more tires being flat? On the way to school one day, had Mitchell and Rachel with me and made it to Decatur from Bern, and ended up with a flat tire. It was 18 degrees below zero. Now, it gets colder every time I tell a story, so pay attention. And Mitchell was with me, and we had a flat tire, and I pulled into the Kroger's there parking lot, and I'm like, we got to change this tire. It is so cold, I'm going to leave the car running. And we had that tire changed, and I was back in the warm car, lickety split. I mean, record time. I bet it was under 10 minutes that we had the car jacked up, tire off, new tire back on, and I'm like, man, we're going to still be on time to school. We didn't go another 10 miles, and guess what? The tire that I put on as a spare blew out. Another flat tire on the way to school. Well, no problem. Second tire being flat, no spare. What are you going to do, Brother Jones? Well, Nathan was on his way to college, and he was behind me. I know what we'll do. I'll just flag down Nathan, and he'll be able to take Rachel and Mitchell to school. And I'll just work on, getting my car back to the shop. And sure enough, Nathan goes by, and we're all doing this, and he's like waving by. I'm like, what was that? We're not waving. We're broke down, okay? And he did make a U-turn, was able to get them to school. But two flat tires, and many of you have flat tire stories too, but flat tires are kind of the way Christianity is in some churches, where they're just not going. They've got flat tires, as far as we're concerned, on getting the gospel to go from where they're at to someplace else. Be ingenious on how you can get the gospel to go from where you're at to somebody else. It's not supposed to be where we let them come. Just expect people to knock on your door and ask, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" That would be glorious. That would be high tech, right? But that's not the way it's supposed to happen. The Lord's will is that you're supposed to go. Where was Paul when he was in where was he when the jailer came in and said, "Sir, what must I do to be saved?" Anybody know where Paul was? Go ahead, Tim. He was in prison. Wasn't at home, sitting in his lazy boy, waiting on somebody to come and say, "What must I?" He was busy going, and in the will of God, God had him go to this jail so a jailer could get saved. And I like that. So tires remind us to go. I've got too many to just spend any one time on one spot, but be going. Your car has spark. If you don't have spark in the ignition system, you will be dead in the water. So what does spark remind? Spark reminds me in the Christian life of zeal. Zeal, fire. How many of you ever gotten a hold of a spark plug that was going on your lawnmower and you said, "Whoa, wait a minute, yeah, okay." You get to some zealousness going on of letting go of that thing. Brother Johnson, I saw that. Got a good story about it. Was it a lawnmower or a car? It was a car, okay. Yeah, just reach down there and grab that spark plug and feel the zeal of the Lord. Come see my zeal. It'll just shake you because there's 20,000 volts there. I mean, there's some power going on, but that reminds us that in the Christian life we should have zeal. You got to have a verse. 2 Kings 10:16 says this, and he said, come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. So they made him ride in his chariot.